Gomez gang, here we are, lesson 4, explore question number 3, deals with reversal error. Very easy to mess up, very easy to try and do some shortcuts and get a question wrong. Super important to pay attention. It takes Priya 5 minutes to fill a cooler with 8 gallons of water from a faucet that flowed at a steady rate. We got 5 minutes. That means that 8 gallons of water came out. We're talking about a steady rate. If it's a steady rate, we're talking about constant. If we're talking about constant, we're talking about proportional. Which equation or equations, maybe multiple answers, below represent this relationship if y represents the amount of water? Let's write that down. Y is the amount of water in gallons. In other words, my number of gallons. And x represents the amount of time in minutes. In other words, my number of minutes. Select all that apply and explain your reasoning. For the sake of the time, we won't be writing an explanation, we will just be solving. Now, if x represents my number of minutes and y represents my number of gallons, then I can draw a ratio table to get me to some equivalent ratios. We have number of minutes, 5. We have number of gallons, 8. Usually in these types of situations, I want to find a unit rate. In other words, I want to get my x to 1. When I get to 1 minute, I need to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 8 divided by 5 is 8/5. If you're more of a decimal guy like myself, it is 1.6. Now this ratio right here, we call it the unit rate, and I'm going to use it as a friendly ratio to plug in or substitute into some of my answers. So once I circle this, I know that when x is equal to 1, y is equal to 1.6. Time to substitute. Now for the time being, I am going to zoom out just because my workspace is a little small, but here we are. Let's look at answer choice A. In answer choice A, we have 5x is equal to 8y. Now x is equal to 1, so I'm doing 5 times 1 is equal to 8 times my y, which is 1.6. Now I know that 5 times 1 won't even get me to 8, much less 1.6, so I know that this answer is not going to work, right? A common misconception is reading this 5x is equal to 8y as 5 minutes is equal to 8 gallons. That is not the case, because in reversal error, when we're talking about variables, we're not talking about a unit or a word. It is a value. So variables, as I've mentioned before, are values, numbers, not units, not words. Great. So we know that A does not work. We're going to take that one off. We have B, where 8x is equal to 5y. My x is equal to 1, so 8 times 1 is equal to 5 times 1.6. Now 5 times 1.6 is going to get me to 8, and 8 times 1 is also going to get me to 8, so I know that B works. We know that one is good to go. Now C, we have C is y is equal to 1.6x. If my x is equal to 1, we have 1.6 times 1, and we have y is equal to 1.6. I'll zoom back out. 1.6 is equal to 1.6, so we're good to go here. Not only that, but you would have noticed if this is 8x is equal to 5y, then I could have divided both of these by 5 in order to get x is 1.6x. You could have divided both of these sides by 5 and gotten 5y divided by 5 is equal to y. 8x divided by 5 is equal to 1.6x. So I know that these two equations, without even doing any type of math, are going to be equivalent. So C is good to go as well. Now we have D. D tells me that y is equal to 0.625x. Now, if you're one of those people who are not very comfortable with using decimals, that's fine. If you happen to have a calculator, you can type in 0.625 and try and find out what that is as a fraction. Now, right above the PRB button in blue, there is an F with some arrows to D. And when you press second to get to those blue functions, and the PRB button, you get to that F to D. Notice where the arrows are going. So you can either get from fractions to decimals or from decimals to fractions, which is what we're doing in this situation. If I press enter, we get to 5/8. So we know that this is equivalent to 5/8. Y is equal to 5/8 x. If y is equal to 1.6, then 5/8 of x, which is 1, should get me to 1.6, but it does not. D is incorrect. It does not work. I'm going to cross it off. Now we're at E. E is x equals to 1.6y. Now, it looks very familiar to C, where the 1.6 is on different sides, though. X, which is 1, is equal to 1.6 times 1.6. We know that that's not the case. That answer is also wrong. Last but not least, we're at F. And F tells us that x is equal to, again, that